is the Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for joining us.
Great. Thank you very much, Hall. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone, wherever you're calling in from, checking in from. I'm the CEO of WorldTree. I tell people that we represent the most complex advanced carbon capture system that the world knows, and it's called a tree. And with WorldTree, we really see that we need a new kind of lumber. We're losing tree cover every year in North America, worldwide, of course. The demand for lumber is set to quadruple by 2050 worldwide and in North America also. We have 30% of our tree species at risk of extinction. That's primarily due to climate change. And the most significant thing is we're not able to grow lumber fast enough to cover the needs that we have. And so we're losing that tree cover every year. So with us, the solution is we're commercializing the fastest growing hardwood species in the world in North America, the first company to do it. Very friendly, very benign, non-invasive. It's called, the botanical name is the Paulownia tree, otherwise known as the Empress Splendor tree. You can see on the screen there how fast it grows. That tree on the trunk on the far right is a 10-year-old tree in Tennessee in the United States. We grow primarily in the southeastern US and Costa Rica and Mexico, where we get very long growing seasons. And so this tree is very unique. Again, it's non-invasive. It's nitrogen fixing like legumes are. So it has a unique root system that adds nitrogen to the soil, doesn't detract from it, supports biodiversity. And then one of the most amazing things, so we get a fully grown tree in 10 years. We harvest it for valuable hardwood lumber, and then the tree regrows from the stump. It will do that for 5 generations before we have to replant. So really 50 years of renewable, regenerative, high quality lumber, all with the carbon being sequestered in those high value products over time. So it's it impacts the environment on multiple levels, both protecting native forests, sequestering carbon, and producing renewable lumber. These are some of the applications you see. On the left, you see the markets that we're selling into, high value, finished lumber, furniture, cabinets. The musical instrument industry, Fender and Gibson are both buyers from us. They both have climate change shortages, that they have woods they need to replace. Many people in these industries do have permanent climate change shortages that they're looking for replacements. And so these markets that I just identified, they total up to $170 billion wholesale market in North America alone. That's not worldwide, so it's in North America. The single biggest issue we have to selling into these markets now is lack of supply. So we've been growing for 9 years. We're harvesting smaller independent growers. But like I say, we're the largest grower right now. We have regular orders from 15 repeat customers that total up to, the potential volume from these customers total up to almost $20 million a year in revenue. And we're selling directly to manufacturers, not to mills, wholesalers, things like that. We're also selling at prices higher than what we modeled. You know, the recent tariffs in Canada have produced even higher prices in North American, in the US lumber market. We're well below replacement costs for other woods in this industry. So where we are right now, it's pretty amazing. We have 7,000 acres planted, over $17 million raised on the retail market to plant these trees. You see locations of where our farms are. More than 9 years of R&D. And the most important thing, more than $300 million of lumber that's in the ground right now that we will start to harvest next year. So the equity that we're raising for World Tree now, and I'll tell you why we're doing it, has a really high floor to it because we start to break into large EBITDA margins in 2026, 27, and going forward from lumber that's already in the ground. So this gives you an example too of the R&D that we've done over the last 9 years. These are 8-month-old trees in Costa Rica. So it's very, very rare that someone gets an opportunity to invest into nature-based, real assets, on the ground. All sorts of things happen politically and with different industries. And you know what? I tell people, no matter what, our trees keep growing. And the demand for lumber continues to grow no matter what. So what we're ready to scale now. We've developed 7,000 acres over 300 different farms over time, and now we're ready to scale into much larger projects, partnering with institutional investors. These are investors like Shell, Nestle, corporates like that who are interested in investing in nature-based projects as a much more profitable way of investing in carbon as opposed to buying carbon credits and things like that. We now have more than 45,000 acres in our pipeline, which we believe we can reliably bring to market and partner with institutional investors over the next 3 years. That's scaling from 7,000 acres to almost 60,000 acres over that time frame. Just to give you an example, that scaling would offset the entire carbon footprint of San Francisco, just with World Tree and these projects and what we're doing. It would also produce billions of dollars of revenue and profit in the lumber market of truly renewable, regenerative lumber. There's not a single other renewable lumber on the market like Empress Splendor is and would be. This gives you an example of what these larger projects look like. I mention this because almost all the investors in this space, they want a pipeline to invest in. And so we're raising capital to develop this pipeline. When I say a pipeline, Shell, Nestle, companies like that, they want $100 million worth of projects to invest in. And so this gives you an idea that a 2,000 acres, $16 million investment has a 21% IRR on that project. It's real asset ownership. It's owning the property. It cash flows in year 2. And I mention this because we also have a group of family offices that are interested in aggregating funds to invest in 1 or 2 projects. And it might be for some of the larger family offices and Hall's network, and might be something that they're interested in aggregating with other family offices. But typically, we're scaling this to be able to partner with those large corporates that I spoke about. These projects, so they're really unique. We actually pair timber with annual crops, watermelon, squash, plantains, bananas. This is a project in Costa Rica. We rebuild biodiversity on the property, build resilient soil. The whole goal of World Tree was to show people that you could produce strong returns and strong high impacts at the same time. So for us, it's rebuilding biodiversity, drawing down carbon, sequestering carbon, building resilient soil, sustainable projects, at the same time that we produce strong returns both in the local community and for investors. This kind of shows World Tree and where we're at and where we're going. We expect around a $500 million valuation at the time that we would be at that 50 to 60,000 acre level after we scale through these institutional projects. This revenue stream that you see right here, virtually all of that revenue is from lumber that's already in the ground planted. So I tell people it's a really high floor to this investment compared to other early stage companies that you're investing in. We got a really strong team, several successful exits, including one that I've done in the healthcare business, but several on my board have raised billions of dollars in capital. We've got 27 people around 5 countries. And so we're raising 6 to 8 million. We've already raised 3.5 million from our internal network. And so we're now reaching out to approximately the same amount outside our network. See the terms there. I'd love for you to contact myself or our Director of Investor Relations, Angela, for anyone with questions. And with that, I think we're done, Hall, and can certainly take any questions.
Sure. Those in the audience have questions, please put them in the chat box. My first question is, do carbon tax credits have a place in your business model?
Yes, they do. They're minor, which we take great pride in because we don't want to build a business on just generating carbon tax credits. And so out of that, one of our projects that produces $120 million in revenue over 10 years, about 3 or 4 million of that comes from carbon tax credits. The rest of it is from timber revenue, annual crop revenue, things like that.
Do you receive any subsidies from family foundations or anything of the like to foster the work that you're doing, or you don't receive any of those?
We don't receive any of those, but for those of you who might be interested, feel free to contact us.
Okay, great. And what's the moat around the business? How do you prevent other people from doing it?
Yeah, so one of the interesting things was if anyone on this call decided they wanted to grow loblolly pine in Georgia, for example, there are any number of hundreds of sources you could go to find that protocol. If someone decided they wanted to grow Paulownia in the United States, there's no resources. We have it all. We've developed it. We've done it with 9 years of R&D. If a really large investor wanted to get into this space, use Weyerhaeuser or whatever, they'd have to go through the same R&D we did, or better yet, they'd purchase it from us. I think, one of the great things about the timber industry that it's shown when faced with competition, they usually acquire companies as opposed to try and stomp them out. And we anticipate a strategic partnership on the offtake side or the growing side with one of those larger competitors as we prove this market over the next several years.
What is the risk that comes from diseases like oak wilt and the like? How do you protect against that?
Yeah, I tell you, and I'd love to say, because it sounds too good to be true, in the literature around the world on this species, there is no known disease, virus, fungus, bacteria. It hasn't existed up to this point. It's been a largely studied tree around the world, not in the US or Latin America, but around the world. And there's no known fungus or disease at this point. One of the reasons might be because it's so fast growing. It's also because it's so fast growing, a vaccine could be developed much more quickly than slow growing trees if it was ever needed.
Where does this tree originally come from?
Native to North America, but it's easily crowded out by nature. It's cultivated more widely in Japan, Australia, parts of Europe, has a growing industry, and China. China mainly for the pulp industry. It grows so fast, you can build a business case to harvest it every 5 years and go to pulp and paper. For us, it produces really high quality, high value lumber.
Are other groups doing this? And if so, how are they different or same than you?
No other groups in this hemisphere. We are the largest grower by far. They're small independent growers, 10, 15 acres. President Jimmy Carter, visionary that he is, took 15 acres of his peanut farm and planted them in Plonia trees 20 years ago. They grew to maturity, didn't quite know what to do with them. Someone put them in touch with us. We purchased them, harvested them, milled them, and using that as part of what we sell into the market right now. So there's small growers like that, nothing on the scale that we are. So we've got a big head start on anyone else.
Great. We're at the end of our time. Thanks so much for a great presentation. For those in the audience, the poll is up. Please fill it out when you get the chance. And we have one presentation for today, as this is the Family Office Roundtable. We put up topics that are relevant to the family offices. I find these are often relevant to even more than the family offices. So if you will bear with me for a few moments, I'd like to give you some content here that might be of use to you and what you're doing. Basically, we're going to talk today about there are 5 pains for the limited partner, the LP 5 pains they call it. And today we're going to talk about the reporting problem. And if you're an investor, you probably recognize this, but it talks about how general partners can build confidence through just better reporting practices. So if I put this up and launch my slides here, we can actually talk about some of these topics as we go forward. If you have questions, please put them in the chat box as well. So first of all, limited partners, consistently cite a lack of transparency and timely communication as a frustration that's out there. And so what we're talking about is the fact that, this undermines trust and complicates the internal stakeholder communications that are going on these days. And so what we're trying to do is figure out, how do we do better at this? The cost of poor reporting is substantially high. 82% of LPs cite insufficient reporting transparency as a top concern. And so what we're trying to figure out is, what can we do to raise awareness that this is an issue? I think many funds believe everything is fine because they understand the numbers, but they're not sure. It's not clear that they're always meeting the needs of limited partners as well. And so some GPs look at this as reporting as a nice to have, but most LPs look at it as a must have and what they need to do, because they use this to evaluate how the fund is doing. They look at it as to how the investment manager is doing as well. This also gives them, in many cases, the limited partner expects these numbers because they have people they have to report to. They have to pass these numbers on. They have to put it into their follow-up reports to the family members or others in their network. And so they're looking for on-demand access to portfolio company performance. They want to know not just how the fund is doing, but how each of the elements of the fund are doing as well, just so they can have a better picture of what it might look like. And they look for communication that's proactive, not reactive. So they're expecting information just to show up versus having to call up and ask for it. So what you can do as a general partner is adopt more of a monthly reporting process that goes along with the quarterly updates. Any major changes should be done on a monthly basis so that people aren't caught unawares until the end of the quarter. Dashboards are greatly appreciated with KPIs on them. If you aren't doing that now, this is great to list all the portfolio companies, put next to it the key metrics. Are they on track with revenue? Are they on track with milestones? Are they ahead? Are they behind? And put a dashboard with maybe a heat map would be very helpful. And then schedule LP-only webinars to answer questions about this. I find in today's world, many groups simply send out a report at the end of the month, and that's it. If you have an hour Zoom call to go through it, it really helps open up the communication and helps the limited partner as well. And some of these GPs have investor portals, and that lets you put more information. Emails tend to be very specific and limited in what is there. There are different tools out there that some people use for LP communication. Carta has one for allocations for LP portals. Visible.vc and Juniper Square have automated reports that can come out. 10 Capital, we're building our own private LLM called Ava for investor transparency. And then there are others that use simple tools like Airtable to keep track of this. So if you're using Excel, you may want to think about taking your game to the next level. And if you haven't gotten into AI, you may want to consider that as well. It's a great add-on tool for analyzing some of the information. Certainly, the limited partners are using AI on your reports, so you might as well also. They're all structural options that support visibility. If you have rolling funds or SPVs with milestone reporting requirements, next time you set up an SPV, put in there you're going to report every quarter, every 6 months, these metrics, set expectations about what you're going to report. You'll get a much better alignment with them. Sometimes there are structured notes with built-in progress checkpoints or redemption rights that you can go back and look at. In Capital, we have 3X and 3. At the end of year 3, you have the option to redeem your equity and go into a revenue share agreement if that's where the company tends to be going. And then you can also do capital call staging based on performance data access. So you'll put in more money if you get certain requirements met, and you'll put in less if you don't. This can become an interesting way of managing the process. So, early alerts is what's, I guess, investors are looking for. When bad news comes up, the sooner they know, the better. They don't like waiting 3-6 months to find out something bad happened. And then streamlined internal LP reporting, having the right tools in place makes a big difference in getting the information out on a regular and timely basis. And this also creates a sense of, we're all in this together between the GP and the limited partner. Also, you'll get more recommitments in future funds if the reporting is always there and easily accessed, and then you'll get more referrals from the portfolio from the GPs that you currently have, and then you reduce just the amount of time you spend in doing the back and forth between the two groups. So you might want to put in a reporting first culture into your program and get very proactive with this up front. It makes a big difference. And you'll find that it's easier to partner with the LPs to maybe co-design the visibility, because you maybe put the reports together and ask for feedback. And then once you figure out what everybody wants, you commit to that over the long haul of the fund. So if you have any questions about this, I'll be glad to share the slides with you, but we're going to be doing the 5 pain points over the next few months, and this is the first one. I want to thank everybody for joining. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. Love to answer those. If not, we will go ahead and move into our breakout rooms. You'll have a chance to talk to these people and myself as well. We each have a breakout room. If you have time to come and give us some feedback, love to have it. We'll be back next month with another family office roundtable, and we'll have another LP pain point topic to go with. I want to thank our presenters for a great presentation today. Doug and Guy, great presentations. Appreciate that. Really good information going on. Really great solutions that are out there. With that, we'll go ahead and move into breakout rooms. Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Paul T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.